let's transition over into the Marvel side. Again, group family theme here. X-Men. Again, broadly, we're not picking out any one individual character. X-Men as a group. I'm going to go first here. No more soap opera, please. Less infighting, okay? Let's actually pick something external to fight. So instead of the junior high style shenanigans of who kissed who and who likes who and who has a crush, it's not compelling, no matter what. Particularly, though, when you have a inherently fascinating group of people who are dealing with power sets that they didn't choose, that they struggle to control, and then they're battling with the question of the external pressures and dislike that tends to come with being an X-Man, and how do I want to use my abilities in the most effective way possible. So to water it down to this truly like juvenile storytelling level of, well, you know, Scott's kind of got the hots for Emma, and she has for him, and oh, look at that, there's Logan again, just sneaking his hairy paw near. But it's like, what are we doing? This isn't compelling. That's not why I'm reading these characters. And then I'm going to use this euphemism intentionally, climaxes into the X-Men are just fighting each other. That's right, cringe heavily there. It's even less compelling. I don't want to see X-Men fighting X-Men. I want to see X-Men fighting Skrulls or X-Men fighting the evil Brotherhood of Mutants, right? Like, let's see the good mutants fighting the bad mutants, not Scott Summers fighting freaking Logan. Let's grow up a little bit here. That would be really fantastic if we could do that, please. Can we please do that? There you go. There's my one.
So I would add on to that, but mine is similar.
Yep.
Not quite into the romance portion, but
it's just so.
I am tired of. I want them to fight someone different because I am so tired of the focus on all of their fights being racism. Because I feel like at some point you have to evolve past that, right? Like the Brotherhood of Mutants, for example.
Right.
Their whole opposition from the X-Men is that the mutants are the superior race, right?
Sure.
So you have them.
Sure.
And then you have the group who made the Sentinels, the Purifiers,
Yep.
right? And they think humans are the supreme race. And then you have Apocalypse, who thinks the strong is the ones that should survive. So all those three, obviously Apocalypse doesn't care what you are. One is the extreme one way, the other one is the extreme the other way.
Yep.
I don't care at this point. We've seen it play out so many times. So I want some like new different enemies. So here's some lists that I had, or just some ideas. I wrote the High Evolutionary as one, and he's probably been an X-Men villain, but I like the idea of him, instead of wanting these mutants because they are the superior human race or whatever,
right,
going after specific mutants for their genetic codes, and then, you know, kind of what Mr. Sims...
trying to extrapolate and enhance what's already there.
Maybe he's making a new race out of all of that, right?
Right.
And that's similar to what Mr. Sinister does. But having it be like this outside source, right? Or I just said aliens in general. I think the Skrulls is primary, right? They've had beef with the Brood before. They've had beef with Shi'ar, right? So, like, it's there.
Why can't the X-Men be the space Avengers? Right? They're extraordinarily adaptable, diverse. Send them out there. Get them on the frontier.
Right. I had the Leader, one of the Hulk's villains. I said a new Brotherhood, but just like they just happen to be mutants. They don't really care about like. Because here's the thing that I think they're missing. Spider-Man, a lot of his villains are just bad dudes committing crime because they like stealing stuff.
Guys.
They like stealing stuff. The X-Men don't have that.
Yeah, they relied so much on the infighting piece.
And here's the other part with the X-Men that just bothers me to a point, because it's evolved past X-Men. It's just mutants as a whole, where, especially this last iteration, they all joined up together
Sure.
and teamed up.
Sure.
And now it's to the point where I feel like every X-Men character is now a gray character, right? There's no black anymore. There's no white anymore. Like, there's no good
or bad.
This guy's just a good dude. This guy's just a bad dude. They're all like this weird, like, neutral, like, oh yeah, we're going to do this to benefit us here, but here we're going to do this to benefit. And it's like, what happened to you guys just wanting to do good despite of what other people thought?
Yeah.
Like, you're out there saving the world.
Right.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
You're not like looking out specifically for your race because your race needs to be preserved.
Yep.
Like, yeah. So I don't know. I'm just tired of I even wrote down maybe a serial killer, like a mutant serial killer. And he's just killing mutants. Not because they are mutants, but you know what I'm saying?
Right. He's just a bad dude.
Like, he's just like going after super powered individuals. Yeah. Where is that? Like, the line is like so blurred anymore, even with like Storm and I think Nightcrawler's probably the one that stayed the most pure throughout all of this.
Yep.
And that's because they based him in Christianity, which is a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down. But like, we talked about this too before with the whole Krakoan age, right? They pretty much were like, hey, the whole throuple idea is a great idea. Let's expand on that even more. And let's normalize it. And that's weird to me.
Yeah.
It should not be a focus. Romantic, like, parts of the story should not be the main focus.
No.
I don't care about that.
No.
I don't. I'm there to watch fights and read compelling stories of characters evolving past who they were, character growth.
You're looking for character growth and you're looking for action when you're reading comics.
I want to see Wolverine take his claws and stab somebody in the chest 3 times. That's what I want to see. Yeah. And so Wolverine was the ideal gray X-Men character, right? Who was despite all of the bad that he's been through and done, he tries to do good, but no matter what comes down to it, he's still an anti-hero, essentially.
Yep.
Like, he's borderline anti-hero.
Yep.
Not afraid to kill, and the X-Men kept him from turning. The whole Deadpool and Wolverine movie focused on this, right? Where he was trying to be the man that Xavier thought he could be.
Right.
And then now it's like all of this, and I get that humans are like this gray, but like, this is supposed to be a
well, even that
more idealistic place.
Even that's a really limited thread to say that, hey, humans are against mutants. Okay, well, who's more powerful here? Mutants. So as long as mutants can get their poop in a group and be semi-organized and unified, the humans aren't going to succeed at taking them out, right? And you can have, I also think just in general, the idea of, well, the humans made a robot. Okay. That's got to be limited. Like, truly, that can't be the secret weapon answer. The humans made a robot and that beat the mutants. And that's what the comics have done so frequently. And it's very strange. It's almost like the comics aren't sure what to do with the X-Men and giving them, I love what you're saying, give them somebody to fight. And I think in a lot of ways we're saying some of the same things here. Like, give them an actual opponent that they can focus on. And you can have internal conflict. I'm not suggesting not to have that, but that can't be the main crux of what you're trying to use to draw us in to these characters, is the internal conflict. That can be a part of it. That's part of any team, but that can't be the whole. In other words, it can't just be a civil war on repeat. And too often, I think that's what it becomes.
Well, with Wolverine and Cyclops, that's an interesting, like, internal battle of leadership that they have. But at the same time, they respect each other enough, again, for the most part, until like recent years probably. But for the most part, they still understand each other to the point where they're like, okay, we are 2 different people, but if we didn't work together, it'd be way worse. Like, we are better together, for sure.
Yeah, no question.
So, I'm ready for a revamp. We're at the point now where X-Men characters have been on the Avengers. So it's just like, and I think part of the problem too is, let's be honest, if the X-Men could be in their own universe entirely and not have anything to do with the Avengers. I mean, they kind of don't already. So I think maybe it's integrating them into like other normal superheroes, and instead of just being like, oh, hey, X-Men are just this, maybe they need to incorporate themselves with those other super teams or whatever it needs to be. I don't know.
They haven't known what to do with themselves ever since the events of Avengers Disassembled, and then the House of M, when the Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, and that really happened. That almost all of mutantdom was just eliminated. They haven't known, Marvel Comics hasn't known what to do with those characters since that time, like how to bring them back in a legitimate way. It was such a bold, and bold's not even a strong enough word. I'm going to say reckless move. Say, hey, we're just going to eliminate all the mutants. It's like, because you immediately put yourself into this corner of, unless you have decided that taking away all the mutants is just a piece of a greater story, that you already know how you're going to tell that story, then you're really in trouble. And I think that's what Marvel did, is they saw the pitch from Brian Michael Bendis, and they're like, wow, that's incredible. People are going to go nuts over this. Let's do it. Let's take away all the mutants. And they never answered the question ahead of time of, but how are we going to bring them back, and what capacity we're going to bring them back? They just closed their eyes, pulled the trigger, and then looked at the aftermath and said, whew, okay, pretty messy. Guys, what do we do? And they don't know. They still don't know.
I mean, think about Avengers versus X-Men. Mm-hmm. Great story, but look at what they did to Cyclops.
Jeez, like they
turned him into Magneto 2.0, essentially. And we're like, and don't get me wrong, like the Phoenix has been known to corrupt people, but they took Cyclops to a whole nother level even before he gets the Phoenix Force.
Yeah.
Because he was at that point now where he's like, I have to save my people.
Yeah.
But
again, when that's like your best X-Men story in a while, which it is, and it is a good story, but when that's the best one, the X-Men are fighting the Avengers, it's a problem for the X-Men. It's not a problem for the Avengers, because they've had many other great and worthwhile stories before and after. But for the X-Men, that's really been the peak over the last decade. It's like, you need an actual opponent that's not a good guy.
Well, they make
to fight against,
and that fault, right? They make the X-Men the villains of the story. Right. The only ones who aren't are Wolverine and Storm.
Yep.
Storm is actually a victim of the whole thing, because after Namor floods Wakanda, she gets pretty much divorced.
Not a good look.
Black Panther's like, nah, you're done.
Yep.
For no reason.
Not great.
Right?
Not great.
So those are the only two, and Hope Summers, obviously, but like, how are you not working with the Avengers at that point? Just be like, hey, I think it could do this with the right. Is there a way we can work this out? And no, you're just gonna take it for yourselves, and then pretty much threaten to rule the planet when it takes over all five of you.
Yeah, pretty tough. Pretty tough. So, a lot of potential there, and it has been untapped for a while now.